You ready? Let's do this. All right. Okay. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from my bunker in Palm Desert, California, also known as my dad's guest room. With me is 99 World Cup winner Saskia Weber, viral sensation, you know him as Pro GK Academy, Omar Zini. And joining us today is not just the head coach, but also the technical director of arguably the coolest looking team in all of American soccer, Daryl Shore of Forward Madison. What's up, man?
Not much. It's pouring down rain here in Madison, so maybe it's a good thing we're not on the field these days. But you know, it's just crazy times. But I appreciate you guys having me on the call. And you know, Mike, when I got this message from you and you mentioned the infamous mulch, I got scared for a little bit, but I'm ready for this.
No, it's going to be fun, man. And speaking of pouring rain, Omar just went viral today because he literally put up a video of the Danish windshield wiper catch. And people were like, we don't know what this is. This is crazy. And then I don't know, somehow it ended up on literally every news media outlet today, Omar. So why don't you explain to the audience who may not be familiar what this catch is?
So actually, Daryl, how you doing? Just want to say hi. But no, I actually had a goalkeeper in college at Cal State LA who is Danish, and he did that windshield wiper catch where you kind of smother the ball in your chest area by, you know, bringing your arms together. And I kind of was taken aback by it. I was like, I've never seen that before. This is a brand new technique. And I said, okay, you know, I'm not going to try and change it because I know you're good at it. But be mindful that the balls here do move, and because our coach didn't buy the expensive Nike balls, but the cheaper ones. So I'm like, they have a chance to move, so be very careful that if you default to this and that ball moves, you're stuck. So he's like, yeah, you should look at Kasper Schmeichel, Peter Schmeichel. So I started reviewing a lot of film, and I started seeing all of the, like, even from Poland, like Fabianski and the guy from Juventus, but like those guys were doing the windshield wiper catch, and I'm like, this is actually pretty sick if you're good at it. So some kid yesterday, I was having a chat with him. He sent me the clip, and I slow-moed it, and I put it on Twitter. And everybody's like, from we love the idea of trying this to we hate the idea of doing that. But it just sparked a conversation, and everybody, that's what I love about it. It just honestly sparked a conversation, and people were like, hey, if they're good at it, don't ever change something that they're good at. So it was pretty cool.
Daryl, have you ever seen it?
Once or twice, and I've always thought to myself, if I tried that, it would knock me over and the ball would go in the goal. So, yeah, it's not something that I think us as goalkeeper aficionados would teach, but I have seen it done before, and I just hope that all the ones that do that have really good bench press workouts, because it's going to take that's going to take a lot of pressure on your chest to keep that ball in. But goalkeeping these days, it's it's not like the old days where you teach the basics and the fundamentals and you go with it. Now they're watching all these goalkeepers from abroad and all these goalkeepers here, and they want to all mimic them. And so this is now the new phase. I know a few years ago when I was at RSL, I asked one of our goalkeepers, who do you mimic your game after? And he brought up Manuel Neuer. And I said, yeah, he's great. I said, his technique sucks, but he's great. I guess to each his own.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fascinating.
I have not seen it. And maybe I have, and I'm just been like, what? But
I'll text it to you. I'll text it to you right now so you have.
All right, let me take a look, because I'll have an opinion.
Oh, you will definitely have an opinion. But speaking of the Neuer thing, like, dude, it's so crazy because, like, we bring up that German arm swing, and I was actually talking to Todd Hoffert about this, and he said, if you're going to do the arm swing, your timing better be just as good as if you start with your hands in a forward position. Otherwise, why are you doing it? You're making the job more difficult than it needs to be. And I think a lot of kids are also kind of defaulting to that arm swing young right now because they're just that they don't have the strength. And so they think they need that momentum to throw their arms, that sort of thing. So, but I think, Daryl, you really hit something on the head in regards to the fact that, like, what happened?
Are you
watching it? I was like, was it something I said? I was like, geez, hold on. We need Saskia's opinion right now on this.
I will tell you this. That would hurt a girl if you don't do it right. And I'm being dead honest with that. There were times I took a ball wrong off my chest, and like my whole arm would go numb, and Tony DeChico would just look at me, and I'd be like, I'd take my glove off, I'd stick it inside my bra, I'd be holding my chest, rest, and he'd be like, take a walk, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you can do it well, it works, but man, you could take a pounding.
Yeah.
If you don't do it right.
But Daryl, like you said though, I think it's really important that like context is not a thing on social media at some points. I think some people post stuff and they don't really understand who's watching and the influence that they have on some of these kids. And I mean, I remember when I used to watch YouTube clips and I used to watch Peter Schmeichel. I had like a VCR tape of him, and I used to see certain techniques that he did, and I was like, I'm gonna try that. But I'm like, I'm not 6'3" wearing like a 4X jersey. I can't do the star jump as well as he does. So maybe not do the star jump. So it's good to try new things and see what these goalkeepers can offer, maybe like add to your toolbox. But at the end of the day, it's like one of the coach's job and the player's job to eventually have trial and error and say, okay, the arm swing is not good for me. The star jump is maybe not good for me, but I could take something away from, the throw that Peter Schmeichel had, or just something that you can really implement into your game that's going to benefit you.
I think it's actually a really good point right now that was just brought up by Yuta Nomura, goalkeeper coach out in New England. And he says that he had a Danish goalkeeper that he was using the technique and he didn't want to fix it, quote unquote, because it worked perfect for him. So I think that's an issue that we a lot of times have with younger goalkeepers, is that we try to, quote unquote, fix something that's already working for them. And Daryl, you've been around the goalkeeping culture in this country for, so many years. I mean, do you think that's an issue that we have in this country, as we try to micromanage our goalkeepers to do it the way we want them to do it?
It is. And so I'll go back to when I work with goalkeepers, and again, I worked with some pretty good ones, and, maybe not as good as some of the others, but, when I got to Salt Lake, this was really the first time working with Nick that I was really working with a goalkeeper who was a little bit older, who was set in his ways. And so when I got there, it was sit down with Nick and just say, listen, I'm not going to change anything that you do, because one, I'd be an idiot to do that. Two, you tell me what works for you, and I'll now take my sessions and I'll gear them around that. But also keep in mind that I had Jeff Attinella and Lalo Fernandez, who were both younger goalkeepers who needed some work on certain aspects of their game. So it was one of those where sometimes we'd have to stay after, or sometimes we'd have to go out early to get that work done. But at the end of the day, when Nick showed up, it was, okay, let's figure out what he needs to get done, and then how can we incorporate the other two guys into their training system. But the one thing I always tell goalkeepers is this: you have one job. And that one job is to not let the ball go in the goal. And so if you have a way of doing it and it works for you, then let's figure out a way to keep you doing that. But at the same time, let's also figure out a way to, one, not get you hurt, and two, make sure that it's effective, not just for yourself, but for the team. And so for me, it's your job is don't get scored on. Let me figure out how it is that you do that, and then let's work with it. When you have younger goalkeepers, obviously, then it's you can start to implement your way of coaching or your way of teaching, because at a young age you can put that imprint on them. I've worked, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but I've worked for so many coaches throughout my coaching career. The one big takeaway that I take from Juan Carlos Osorio when he came to Chicago, the big thing he said to us is, football is a game of opinions, and everybody has them. Not everybody's is right, not everybody's is wrong, but it's your opinion, and it's how you want to coach it. So I kind of use that a lot with goalkeeping as well, is, look, goalkeeping is a matter of opinions, and we have 4 goalkeeper coaches on this call here who probably teach it similar but different. And what I tell goalkeepers that I have to work with, who have worked with other goalkeeper coaches, I tell them, your goalkeeper coach that you worked with in the past was not wrong. He or she just taught it that way. This is the way I teach it. And so this is the way it's always worked for me. And the big one for me is the swim move going down for a low ball and getting back up. I call it the swim move. It's very South American or Central American versus the going down and getting up, going down one way and getting up the same way. So it'd be interesting to see what you guys think of those two techniques. But I did a thing with Lalo Fernandez and Jet Batinella where I timed them both, doing both moves. And the swim move was slower than the old technique of going down and getting up. But still, I couldn't fix Lalo from doing that move because that's what he had been taught from a young age, and that's what worked for him. So if it works for you, you keep it.
I think, one thing that you're bringing up that's really good. By the way, you can totally tell that this guy is a head coach too, and not just a goalkeeper coach. Because the first thing he said, he's like, the number one job is to keep the ball out of the net. I'm like, oh, that's somebody that's concerned about the wins and losses right now. Like that is somebody who's on that side of the fence. But this is one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on, Daryl. When we were talking with Mo Queen, obviously he's a head coach now as well too, as well as has a huge history in goalkeeper coaching. Is we want to kind of discuss that, and I'm surprised we haven't done this yet on the show. Is that relationship between the goalkeeper coach and the team coach? And I think especially at the youth level, there's so much work that still needs to be done in regards to this relationship. So,
wait, hold on, really quick, Omar.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I just got texts and everything from the Bulls, from my coaching staff at the Bulls, going, hey, Sas, you got to check out this technique. What do you think about it? And all this stuff. And I'm sitting here going, are you guys watching the podcast? Like, what in the world's going on? They're like, no. Like, they're all commenting on it. I'm like, we're just talking about it.
He's a celebrity now. I mean, like, my gosh,
Look at you.
But Daryl. So yeah, to kind of pick up before we get into the conversation, Mike, on your point about the spin move, the spin technique versus the regular technique. I actually posted a video. I was watching France. They had, I think, on the international break. I think it was Lloris and Areola. One of those two guys. They were doing like shots right, left. So it's like 4 shots. And I think the coach had 4 balls. So like just you get it one way, you get the other way. And I put the clips side by side. I think Areola does the spin move. That's his natural thing. He just does it so well. And the other goalkeeper did it the regular, technique of like kick push or you get back up. He did it so well too. And I just put them side by side and I just said, hey guys, look, there's going to be different ways to do things. But if you can master it one way, no one's going to tell Guillermo Ochoa not to do the spin move. I don't care where he goes. He comes to the U.S.
No one's going to tell Guillermo Ochoa to do anything. I don't know if you've watched him play goalkeeper before, but he's got his own style.
Only one time every 4 years for 1 month he balls out. I don't know how he does. I don't watch him in Liga MX. I don't know what he does there. But Dale, to your point though, I think that's a really good point, and I think I've had to make that adjustment as a coach. And Mike, you've done this. You really coached this into me of like, there's going to be different styles, and if you're going to lose people's trust and their attention spans if you're just trying to say, hey, what that coach did was wrong. And exactly. So it's good too. And then I asked, I think it was Nathan Thackeray, who's at NC Courage, and I asked him, when you go to the national team camps and you have these goalkeepers for like a week, are you picking off different things about their techniques and what they do and taking it back and like adjusting it with your own philosophy? He's like, yeah, you always have to have an open mind. Like I'm going to take these goalkeepers and I'm going to see things that I've never seen before or I've never coached, and it works for them. And then it sparks my interest. And I go, whoa, maybe I should start, implement that with this body type or this goalkeeper who has this limitation or this, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's the beauty of coaching. That's the beauty of having these conversations is you learn so much from other people and you come back in, you figure out what you want to filter in and out, and then you use it if you need to. If you don't.
Yeah. I mean, we've said that a bunch of times that, on the cast and everything. Look, if you're going to do something, perfect it, first of all. And there's so many different philosophies and so many different ways of doing it. Especially with an older goalkeeper, if they're doing it right, if it's effective, if all of it's working for them, then you can't roll in and be like, my way is the right way, everything else the highway. Like it doesn't work that way. I think as they get older and when you get into college and pro and stuff, you're looking more at the positioning and stuff like that. And as far as like trying to change a whole style of what they're doing. Like we've talked about Nair multiple times on the show, and I feel that she plays too far near post, but that's a positioning issue. And can you rechange that as a coach? Can you fix that as a coach? I do think you can, but this isn't like a technical issue where she's doing the Danish catch or she's doing something. If she's perfected it, she's perfected it. If her positioning's off because she's too worried about her getting beat near post, and that's something we got to talk about because now she's getting beat far post. So that's different. But with the young kids, they come in and I agree with you. I've allowed them to try different ways of doing things to see what works best for them. Like, are they doing the windmill get up? Are they doing, what's working best for them and most efficient for them, their body type, their athleticism, and everything. You have to be open to everything.
Yeah. No,
I mean, good coaches, and this is not just goalkeeper coaches, but coaches in general. Good coaches, they don't let their players dictate what they're going to do, but they take into account what their players are good at, and now you take that and you run with it. Listen, and Mulch and I, we go way back, but the one thing I would say about Timmy, and I've never coached Timmy, but obviously I know him well and we have a good relationship, but I always thought watching Tim Howard was that his base was always too wide. Do you think I'm going to tell him that his base is too wide?
I'm not going to do it. I know that.
no chance, because he is so effective at what he does in his career that if I were to go, hey, Timmy, by the way, I was watching you in a game and your base was too wide, and that's why you gave up one goal in one game. And then he'd say to me, yeah, but what about the 18 saves I made in that game because the base was so wide? So it's one of those things where if you have a goalkeeper who has qualities, don't necessarily try to fix the qualities. Figure out a way to work with those qualities and make them better.
Right, but I mean, I have a goalkeeper that double sets and sets, first of all, double sets, but sets way too wide. And no, he's not getting to those balls, and I don't care how athletic he is, he's not getting to the balls. So no, you're letting up 18 and saving 1. So, we've got to try to fix this. But the opposite, no, I wouldn't tell Timmy either.
Yeah, I mean, John Bush, when I worked with him, he would take a double hop before every shot.
Yeah.
You like Bushy.
I tried to emulate that because I saw Bushy doing that on TV.
Right.
I actually haven't told Bushy that. I just realized that, but
I would be like,
and it did not
Bushy,
work.
You're double hopping before every game, before every shot. He goes, all right, what do I do to fix it? I said, well, probably nothing, because you still save everything. I go, but when we break it down and I show it to you, there's going to be 1 or 2 balls that you don't get to, and it's because of your double hop.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I just want you to be aware that this is what you're doing. All right. Yeah. But at the same time, if it's something that you're comfortable with, again, John Bush, I got him in 2008. It's not like I was going to change his ways. Now, the one thing I did have to do is get him off the damn field. I mean, that guy would not get off the training field. We'd be an hour and a half into it. I'd be like, hey, John, training's over. He's like, yeah, just a couple more. I'd be like, yeah, but that was 45 minutes ago. I'm like, I have to go home now, So one of those things but that was just one thing where he had that one little hop, but it worked for him. So it's not something that you're going to change.
So let's talk about this dynamic right now. Let's talk about the team coach and the goalkeeper coach. There's a lot of parents listening to the podcast who are new to goalkeeping because their kids play in goalkeeper, and a lot of times they hear the different terms. So, in one of you guys, if you guys can kind of break it down the simplest way, like from Daryl, from your standpoint, like what are kind of the responsibilities of the goalkeeper coach versus a team coach or an assistant for a program?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's different for each program. So for myself, I was always, even in Chicago, my first year in Chicago, 2000, I was hired as just a goalkeeper coach. And so that year, I'm going into a staff that had Bob Bradley, Mike Jeffries, Dennis Hamlet, all 3, well-respected coaches at the time. I had worked for Mike for a couple of years. I'd played for Mike, so I knew Mike pretty well, but I didn't really know Bob that well, and I didn't know Dennis at all. But my role was, you're the goalkeeper coach, and if we ask you for your opinion on other things, then you can offer them. But until then, just give us your thoughts and opinions on goalkeepers. But it wasn't just our goalkeepers. My job then was to still do a scouting report on our opposing team goalkeepers, to do, what were his pluses and minuses. But Bob was always one who included you as a coach in the whole scheme of things. So he would always say to me, don't just watch the goalkeeper, watch the back line of our defense, our teams, or watch our back line, so you can kind of give us input from there. So it really depends. As far as a goalkeeper coach, your role really depends on what your head coach tells you it is. And so I know that my evolution of coaching has evolved from just being a goalkeeper coach to being a top assistant / goalkeeper coach to being a head coach. And so what I tell my goalkeeper coaches now as a head coach is, I want you involved with everything. I want you involved with not just the goalkeeper, but I want you involved with our back line. I want you involved with set pieces, because the goalkeeper plays such a big part in all of those aspects of the game. But at the same time, if you tell me that you're only comfortable just being the goalkeeper coach, and that's all you really want to do is work with goalkeepers, then that's fine. But just understand that that's all I'm going to ask you to do then. So for me, I'd rather have a much rounded goalkeeper coach who, again, I listened to the podcast with Mulch and Blaj that you guys had. Blaj brought up a good point. Your goalkeeper coach better know the game, right? And your goalkeepers better know the game. So that's the biggest thing is, if you have a goalkeeper coach that doesn't know what they're talking about, then nobody wants to listen to them, including your goalkeepers. But if you have a goalkeeper coach that studies the game and knows the game, and I don't mean has played the game, okay? Because you don't have to have played the game at the highest level, but you have to have known the game and studied the game and be able to articulate what you're talking about. So for me, the role of the goalkeeper coach is there's so many different roles. Whereas when I worked for Jeff Kassar, I was also technically the number 1 assistant. So I wasn't just the goalkeeper coach. I was also in charge of the visiting team scout. I was also in charge of the video of the visiting team. So I would have to break down film all the time of our opponents. Now, what that helped me with was, now when I would do our separate videos with Nick and Jeff and Lalo and Matt when we had him, it was easier to do those videos because I had the knowledge to doing everything. So for me, your goalkeeper coach's role is really dependent on what your coach wants it to be. And at the college level, maybe you're starting to get now, I think, more, and Saskia can speak to this a little bit more, but colleges are now starting to hire goalkeeper coaches. When I was in college, there was no goalkeeper coach. It was a former field player who the head coach sent down there and said, just bang 100 balls at him and let us know when you're ready. So that's the other thing is you got to be prepared to have your session ready, but you also have to be prepared for a 20-minute session, a 40-minute session, a 30-minute session, and you have to be able to roll with it because, and I'm at fault with this as a head coach now too, is I'll tell my goalkeeper coach, you've got 30 minutes today with the guys. And 40 minutes later, my goalkeeper coach is, down there saying, hey, remember us? Hey, yeah, remember us? And I'm like, oh, yeah, we'll be right there. But then there's times where I'll say, you've got 30 minutes, and 20 minutes in, I'm like, hey, you guys ready? And he's looking at me like, are you kidding me, man? Like you told me I had 30 minutes, and now you're telling me 20. So I had to deal with that as a goalkeeper coach. And what you've got to be able to do, the biggest thing as the goalkeeper coach, you've got to be able to adjust on the fly. And you've got to be able to coach on the fly. And you have to be able to alter your sessions. Say, okay, I have this 45-minute session planned out, but coach just told me walking out to the field that he's changed it, and I've only got 33 minutes, right? So I better be ready to cut something out or to do something like that. So again, it's probably a long-winded answer, but it really depends. The goalkeeper coach really
Daryl, it was
depends.
only 7 minutes. Don't worry about it. It's not long-winded anyway.
I went and got coffee.
Right? Yeah. So,
but it is. It's a complex thing.
Is what the answer is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a profound. Like I said, this is a profound topic, and it's not something that you can, discuss in one episode and really get across. I'm glad you brought up the fact in regards to the fact that both Saskia and Omar recently have been in the college game. I've been in the college game, and it sucks. It sucks, honestly. When you're in that situation, and you've prepped your session, and honestly, one of the most difficult things for me was getting my ego out of the way. Right. And I think that's something that us as goalkeeper coaches need to work on, is that it's not about us. It's about the team dynamic. And that's why the communication with the rest of the staff for the goalkeeper coach is so important. If you can't communicate with them, if you're on an island, then you're not really working with the team, right? Right, Saskia or Omar?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, I think I mean, my experience with UCLA right now, we are very organized in that sense. Like I know coming out to the field what's going on, but I do agree with you that there are those times that I turn around and I'm like, okay, we're going on 45 minutes and it was supposed to be like 30. Or there are times that all of a sudden I turn around, there are 5 field players standing there that just got sent to me for me to work into my goalkeeper session. And I'm sitting there going like, you know, I'm like, I didn't know anybody was going to send me field players, and that wasn't really worked into my session. And you do have to adapt on the fly, and you do have to be able to still grab those 5 players and say, all right, you know, I'm going to tweak this drill a little bit. Now you guys are doing the serving or shooting or whatever's going on, but still stay true to what you were supposed to be working on that day. As well as being, I agree with you 100% in the sense, like, I am able to coach a defense as well. So whether it's club or whether it's with UCLA or whatever, I'm in the goal. I'm explaining to the back line why the goalkeeper is communicating the way they are, what they're supposed to be doing, and I'm given carte blanche to do that. You know, I thank God I haven't run into a coach. It's just like, okay, go warm up the keepers and shut up. You know, I probably wouldn't want to coach for a person that did that to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so because there are certain aspects, whether it's free kicks, like, when we're doing free kicks, Saskia, help the defense, help this guy set up the wall. Why? How many numbers? Why this situation? It's not just, okay, keepers. And that is part of what we talked about is you have to be more well-rounded as a goalkeeper coach. You have to understand the game, you know, and you have to be able to answer those questions, if not for the head coach, for your players. If your keeper turns to you and asks you why a situation happened with the defense or doesn't understand the lineup or doesn't understand what to do in a situation and you can't answer that, you know.
No, I think, you know, one thing, Omar, I want to ask you in regards to when you were, you know, at CSULA, set pieces, that's such a vital part of the game. And it does involve the goalkeeper directly. But there's a lot of moving parts in there. And did you ever have the trust of the coaching staff, or did you ever work with them on the set pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I was more of a sponge, honestly. Like, I stepped into the coaching environment there, and Chris Shamadiz, he's such a good coach, and he kind of took me under his wing. Like, there were days where he said, hey, do you have any questions? And I said, okay, so why in this formation what should my goalkeeper do in this situation? What do you think? He's like, well, obviously, you know, in this formation, they have these wingers that, you know, run across the goal or run across the back line. So maybe when you do one of your sessions, and we can even do it with our players and do like some functional training with them. But with your goalkeepers, maybe in your activation before you come with our team, maybe you do where you have 2 or 3 dummies and you're dribbling one way and you have 2 options and you can, you know, slide the ball right or left. And from there, the goalkeepers can decide what they need. So that was always the conversations that we had. And I mean, Chris is just such a smart guy, and he was really kind of opened my eyes as to what the goalkeeper coach, how relevant they could actually be in the coaches' discussions. And then from understanding what the coaches want from the goalkeepers and what they're going to see from the weekend, transferring that to the session. I think that was a big like aha moment for me of like, wow, I can actually create a bridge between the team and my goalkeeper, so that when the weekend comes, the back line knows that my goalkeeper may be aggressive because we worked on this over the week, and because they're going to probably cheat off their line a little bit more to help with those balls over the top if we're going to play a higher line. So again, that open line of communication was huge. And I think the biggest thing, Mike, like you said, is ego. And I think I credit you a lot, Mike, is that you challenge me on my ideas a lot. And I think that is the best way to create progress. And that's what my coach at Cal State LA did. He's like, okay, so why would you have your goalkeeper in this formation, this? I'm like, I don't even know what that formation would do to their front four. Like, I have no idea what that would mean. So he's like, yeah, you need to understand what these, you know, a formation, what the forwards tendencies are. You need to know all this stuff. And you may not even, your goalkeeper may not even see the forward may get injured a minute or 2 minutes in, but the fact that you painted them a picture and helped them understand what they could potentially see in that very one moment, they can have that mental recall because of the picture that you painted for them in training. And that could be the difference between us losing and going home or us winning and advancing. So I think that was the biggest thing for me in the collaboration with the coach. And I think all coaches need to be willing to leave that platform for the coaches, and hopefully they can, you know, take the opportunity.
Yeah, but you also like a comment to your ego comment. You can't just come in with your thought, like your philosophy. You can't just roll in saying, all right, this is what we're working on for my first 30 minutes of practice with the goalkeepers today, period. you have to have that communication with the coaching staff, because if you're sitting there working on crosses and you're going into some sort of a 1v1 and through ball situation with your team, your goalkeeper's timing, and they're not warmed up, prepared, or their mental state is not clicked on for that. And so you have to have that open line communication. You have to tailor your session to fit into when they transition into the field player session. And then if you need to work on some stuff, stay after. If you want to do some crosses or something, have an extra session. But you have to prepare them, because it's a team sport. They're just not over here just doing their own thing and then totally at a disconnect mentally when they come into the team training.
Yeah, well, listen, coaching, the biggest word you hear from coaching is communication, right? So you have to have open lines of communication. It's not just with your players, it's with your staff. And so as a goalkeeper coach, the first thing you should do, if you're not involved every day in the meetings and stuff, and look, it's different. Like when I was with the Fire in my first couple of years, I had to leave every day at 2:00. Because if I didn't leave at 2:00, it was going to take me 2.5 hours to get 12 miles to go coach my youth sessions. Because
you sure you weren't living in LA?
I'm like, oh, wait, you were in LA?
Right, Chicago. So I'll make all of you guys probably fall out of your chairs. But in 2000, I was the first quote unquote full-time goalkeeper coach hired, and my salary was $10,000. So
wait, what?
Yeah, $10,000. That's what my salary was.
For the Fire?
With the Chicago Fire in 2000.
You better got a lot of gear. You better have gotten a lot of gear. A lot of gear.
So basically what I would have to do is I'd have to leave at 2:00 to go to youth coaching training. And so I'd come in the next day, and I always would make sure Bob was always the first one at training, and there was no way anybody was beating Bob, because if you found out that Bob got in at 7 and you tried to get in at 6:45, Bob would start getting there at 6:30. And then if you were getting there at 6:30, then Bob would get there at 6:15. So I always knew if I got there at 7:30, I was probably the second one there because Bob was there. But the one thing I learned quickly as a goalkeeper coach is when I got to practice that day, the first thing I did is I asked the head coach, or I asked the assistant, hey, what are we working on? What are we doing? Because I wasn't there all the time. Now it's different. Now if I'm there every day and there's good lines of communication, goalkeeper coaches now are making great money, and well, not great money, decent money in MLS, where they don't have to go coach the youth ones. They do it because they love it, but they don't have to live to do it to live. But anyway, my point is I would come in and I'd say, what are we working on today? And they would tell me, okay, this is what we're doing today. All right, now I can go get my session ready for what we're doing, because Saskia is right. If I'm working on crosses and now we're doing one-on-one stuff, my goalkeepers probably haven't hit the ground at all because we're doing crossing, all right? But now here they are working on one-on-ones, and now they've got to hit the ground all the time, right? So that's not a good thing to do. So communication is huge. And then the other thing with the ego, with the goalkeeping stuff, 100% throw that out the door. All right. You want to be a part of the staff. All right. So if you want to be a part of the staff, then you have to understand that you're a piece of that staff. You are not the staff. Okay. And you have a specialized position that you're working on, but at the same time, you have to understand that a lot of guys or girls are looking at you like, yeah, you're just a goalkeeper coach. So you have to earn the respect of them. But at the same time, again, it goes back to if you know the game and if you know what you're talking about, then you'll be all right. And it's a quick story. So 2001, we're in New England. Bob is suspended for the game. So our head coach is the assistant coach. And we come in at halftime, and I was talking with Jesse Marsh a couple days ago, and he was reminding me of the story. But, the coach came in, our assistant coach came in, and he was, we were getting I don't know that we were losing, but we were getting thumped. And he came in and he was all flustered and he didn't know what to do. And I stepped in and I said, hey guys, we got to get here. We've got to do this. Our organization is this, it's that. And like guys like Jesse Marsh, Chris Armas, Peter Novak, Stoichkov, Winalda, DeMarcus Beasley. I can go on. That team was loaded. But anyway, they all kind of looked at me and go, wait a minute, you're the goalkeeper coach. And they're like, this guy's got something, All right, this guy under. So that for me, that was my coming out party. With everyone saying, okay, this guy maybe will have a future and not just be a goalkeeper coach. But there's also there's two kinds of goalkeeper coaches. There's ones that want to aspire to be more than a goalkeeper coach, and then there's goalkeeper coaches that just want to be the goalkeeper coach. Like if you talk to John Bush right now, Bushy would tell you, I want no way do I want to deal with anything but goalkeepers. That's great, and we need those kind of goalkeeper coaches. But you also need your goalkeeper coaches to be able to say, look, I want to be a head coach one day. You know, I want to be a top assistant one day because I want to expand my horizons and I want to give back to the game what the game gave to me.
But I want to.
I gotta be awesome. I have no desire to be a head. Let's say that. I don't really have an overwhelming desire to be a head coach. I enjoy being a goalkeeper coach / assistant, and I enjoy like focusing on certain things, although learning the whole gamut of everything. But perfecting what I love and spending my time with those goalkeepers in the back line and everything like that. I think it's awesome. I mean, obviously, my World Cup coach, Sonia Chico, was a goalkeeper. And so, you know, there are plenty of absolutely amazing head coaches that are goalkeepers.
Bruce Arena was a goalkeeper. So
yeah, so
sure.
That's a prerequisite to be a U.S. soccer head coach in the late 90s, right? That's the way it
I'm
worked.
probably going to get in trouble for saying I didn't have that desire, but I like being that assistant
But there's
coach.
nothing wrong with that. That's great. And so I remember when Dennis Hamlet took over the Fire in 2008, and I was on the staff still with him. I went into him and I said, Dennis, I want to be the top assistant. And he kind of looked at me. He goes, well, I'm going to bring somebody else in to be the top assistant. He goes, why don't you just focus on being the best goalkeeper coach in the league? And I said to him, I'm already that. I mean, I'm already that. I mean, I've had Zach Thornton, who was unbelievable. At that time, I had John Bush, and in 2008, John Bush was the goalkeeper of the year. But my point to him was, I'm good at being a goalkeeper coach. That was my thought process then. I want to be more. Okay. But he was right. I needed to focus. And again, I needed to throw my ego out the door. For me, it was more a money play. Remember, I made $10,000 in 2000. We're now in 2008. I was making a little bit more then, but not as much. But I was like, look,
it's nice they threw you that extra $100, right? For after 10 years later. Yeah.
Pay for your gas.
All I'm saying is I want to be compensated for my worth. Okay. And now goalkeeper coaches are starting to get compensated for their work. That was the big part of it was, okay, don't make me the top assistant, but I'm more than just a goalkeeper coach because you asked me to do video, you asked me to do scouting reports, you asked me to do all these things, then compensate me for what I'm, and he did. He went to bat for me, and, we ended up bringing Mike Jeffries in, and Mike Jeffries and I are very close friends. Mike had left the Fire to go be the head coach in Dallas. Then he was an associate head coach at Duke. I mean, Mike had been around and Dennis wanted to bring Mike back. And it was a smart play by Dennis because Dennis had never been a head coach before. And by bringing Mike Jeffries in, who had been a head coach, that really helped him. But the great part about it was by him hiring Mike and I were so close that my ego wasn't bruised. And I was like, all right, I'm going to focus again on being the best goalkeeper coach in MLS. Because I really did. At that time, I felt like I was. And then, let's try and win a championship. And that year in 2008, John Bush was the goalkeeper of the year. And we lost in the semifinals and blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, it's perfecting that craft of being a goalkeeper coach. Some of us want to be more. Some of us are very satisfied and rewarded by doing just the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Hey, Omar, are you still there?
Yeah, Omar.
Yeah, I'm still here.
No. Let's just move on. Actually, I'll ask Omar this right now. By the way, man, it's amazing because this is this day where you're becoming this big celebrity everywhere online, and little do people know that you're on this little podcast, goalkeeping podcast right now. They're probably thinking you're, right now over at the top of the FA or something like that. But I want to ask you because you've just been in the college environment for the last couple of years, and Daryl was bringing up all the things in regards to. I'm also doing scouting reports, and I'm also doing this and that and that. And that is the job of the goalkeeper coach at the college level, especially, is to do more than just be a goalkeeper coach. And I think because of that, I love the fact that you bring up that respect factor So if you're doing more than that, then people need to see you as more than just a goalkeeper coach. If you are doing those things, it seems to me that in that environment, they gave you that ability to kind of learn from doing all these things that maybe, you weren't as versed in. And so I want to ask you a question on the flip flop to everybody here. Does the team coach, does the head coach need to be involved in the structuring of the goalkeeping program, or do you leave that alone to the goalkeeper coach? Because I've gotten varying, replies on that. I've had some DOCs tell me that they need to put the curriculum together with me, otherwise they won't feel comfortable with it. I've had other DOCs say, just do your thing, and if I don't like what I'm seeing, I'll let you know. So what are your thoughts on that?
I spoke to Anthony White, who is at Bournemouth now, but he was I think Oldham Athletic when he was like a 22-year-old coach. And he said that when he first got in, he would speak to the managers and say, look, tell me what you want from a goalkeeper, just so that we're both, checking off every box and making sure that if you want this specific goalkeeper, I'm going to go out and recruit, so nobody is left upset about what the end result is. So I think that was, to me, an eye-opening kind of like message from him is like, yes, you need to go to the coach sometimes and ask them what they want, just so that if you recruit somebody that they don't want, there's nobody to blame but the coach, because there was that open line of communication. So yes, I would say it does need to be, especially maybe not in the college game as much, because the coach is heavily recruiting goalkeepers or is involved in the recruitment as well, and they sign off on it. So if they pick a goalkeeper that is not good with their feet and you're playing at Akron, there's no way you're gonna play. So no one should be surprised about that. But there was one story that I have from Cal State LA is that our coach didn't like the chances or like certain opportunities that were created because our goalkeeper he's Danish and he loved playing with his feet. So he would say, Omar, look, I see you working on him showing outside the box to receive a back pass in training and him hitting one-touch passes. I don't want that. I don't want to see that in your sessions. I don't want to see any of that, because now you're encouraging him. And my message to you is I don't want that. So your message to him should be, we're not doing that. So again, to me, it was like, well, I was always assumed that coaches wanted goalkeepers that were going to show for the ball. That's what I thought. And when he told me that, I go, wow, what the coach wants at the end of the day is what the coach wants. And so having that open line of communication from day one, so that you as a coach know the proper messaging and how you're packaging it to your goalkeepers is very in line with what the head coach wants. And you want to cover your butt too. You don't want to be that coach who's, we talked about all the time with the coaches where the goalkeeper makes a mistake and everybody right away turns their head at you on the bench and looking at you like, hey, why didn't you teach them not, to concede that goal? So I think, yeah, my message I guess what I'm trying to say is, yes, it's important to have those open lines of conversations, but I think the goalkeeper coaches should be well-rounded enough to make sure that they get what the coach wants, but at the same time to have an idea, an identity of what they want as a coach as well, and couple those two and make sure that you're putting the best product that you're going to be comfortable with as well.
Yeah. Omar, that story you're just telling about the coach turning to you, the goalkeeper coach, every time you give up a goal and looking at you and pointing the finger at you. I had a coach that did that and that I worked for. And every time he'd turn around and go, what's he doing? Why'd he do that? And I would turn around, and this would be my response. I'd turn and I'd look at him. I go, not sure. I'll ask him at halftime, right? or no, I'll ask him when the game's over. I don't know why you did that. Okay? I don't know. So the role as the goalkeeper coach is be calm. Don't start overreacting when your coach is starting to freak out because your goalkeeper did this or your goalkeeper did that or your goalkeeper did that. And it's like, you know what? Look, I'm not out there. Okay, I'm not out there, so I can't really answer that question for you. As far as Mike, the question about should the head coach have a say in the curriculum, or
I know it's a little bit different because you actually have a goalkeeping education, and right. There's a lot of coaches out there who just don't have that education.
Right, but it's changing because here's what I would tell you. I tell my goalkeeper coach now, I hired you because you know what you're doing. Okay, I hired you because you're good at what you do. All right, go do your thing. Okay, now if I look down there and I see you doing something down there that I think is off the wall crazy, then I'll come down there, or after training, you and I will sit down and we'll talk about it. And I'll say, why did you do this? Or why are you doing this? All right. Same thing with Jeff Kassar. When Jeff hired me to be his goalkeeper coach / assistant coach at RSL, I said to him, I said, all right, what is it you want me to do with Nick and with the other guys? And he looked at me and goes, hey, I hired you. You figure it out. And I said, well, I mean, you've been working with him for the last 4 years, you know, or whatever. Like, listen, he goes, you're the goalkeeper coach now. So I want you to now have a say in it. So I would go to him and I say, okay, this is what I'm thinking that we need with our goalkeepers. And now he might say, no, that won't work. Okay. Because he does know. It depends on your head coach. Some head coaches want nothing to do with the goalkeepers. Some head coaches will turn to you and tell you that goalkeepers are not soccer players. That pisses me off. That so pisses me off when you have a coach. I had an assistant coach on a staff once turn to me and go, it doesn't matter. They're just the goalkeepers. And I was like, you know what? That's such crap, man. Like I said, because when we give up a goal, you're going to turn around and say, what the hell was he doing? Right?
Exactly.
Why did he give up that goal?
And speaking of that, I want to ask Saskia this because she's obviously a director at a youth club as well as at being at UCLA, which are two very different animals. And one of the tough things of being a goalkeeper coach at a youth club is that you don't have that team environment because you've got, 150 goalkeepers that you're looking after, at a club as opposed to, 3. So how important is it to have that communication with those team coaches at the club and know what those players are doing on the weekend in order to be able to put your session together, Sas?
I think we've talked about this. It's incredibly important. I have that open line of communication. We'll come together, whether it's on, because I can't get to all the games, and stuff like that. So finding out what the weaknesses and strengths were during the game, kind of breaking it down. Now, like some of my teams are using more video, stuff like that, analysis, so I can actually see what they're talking about. And sometimes, like one of my coaches came to me, and one of my players was beaten in a certain way, and she was describing it to me, and I looked at the video, and I was just like, "Oh my God, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about." And I love her to death, and she's one of the best field player coaches I've ever met in my life, but when it came down to breaking that down and what she was saying my goalkeeper should have been doing, I mean, he screwed up regardless, but it's totally for a different reason and a different perspective. But it's good because in her mind, had we not talked about that, had I not seen the video, in her mind, it would have been something totally different. Her thought process and how he should have positioned himself and moved was totally wrong. And because we had that open line of communication, I was able to sit with her, show her the video, and explain to her what he did wrong, how he was supposed to position himself, how he was supposed to move. And yeah, I mean, I do not have 100 and something goalkeepers. We have a small club, but that's a good thing because I'm able to be a little more hands-on and be able to do that with every coach and with every keeper, and be really, really close with them and keep on top of them. And it is very different. It's, I'm dealing with 3 keepers at UCLA, and I'm really able to kind of focus, sit down, talk with Amanda, talk with Sam and Jane. And I go through that as well in both practices, in club and everything. Like, what were they doing? Yeah, I don't know what they were doing. I didn't teach them to do that. I'll talk to them, same thing. I'll talk to them over the break, figure it out. And that mentality of sometimes you're playing small-sided game or something and the one team lost because my goalkeeper messed up, and I put my ego aside. I'm not, but I'll turn around and be like, well, maybe if the forward had scored those four balls they shanked past the other goal, like your team would have won. You know what I mean? But like you just kind of have to keep it calm. I always make sure that I'm not the person that's running around in the middle of practice when something's going on and like on top of my goalkeepers. Why'd you do this and do that? When there's a break, I bring them in, we sit down, I go over certain plays I saw, we talk about it, and we move up.
One thing I learned really quickly when I first started coaching is I thought I had no idea I didn't know soccer. Like I'm not joking. Like I'm like, how could I have played in college, a little bit in the USL, tried to go overseas, and I don't know anything about soccer. I literally didn't know soccer. And it became very clear to me when I became a director at a club, a goalkeeping director, and then they made me an assistant in the DA. And then they had me come out to run some sessions and games, and I was like, oh, I am so over my head right now because I hadn't really learned the game, and I just realized how far I still had to grow as a goalkeeper coach because I wasn't doing the service. And look, we're talking about maybe 07, 08. The game has changed a lot since then, and I think that's the maturity of the goalkeeping education since then, and actually teaching people how to become soccer coaches. Was that of course, my goalkeepers were just going to be shot stoppers and understand angle play because that's all I was teaching them, you know? So, Daryl, how throughout the evolution that you've been seeing, like what are some of the mistakes that you still see goalkeeper coaches making to this day that aren't apt with the modern game?
I think it's overcoaching. You know, I think it's overcoaching. It's trying to fit all of these different scenarios into one. And for me, it's again, you've got to, as a goalkeeper coach, you've got to keep a level head. Your goalkeepers are going to make mistakes. Your goalkeepers are going to give up goals, whether they're good goals, bad goals, soft goals, whatever. You know, your goalkeepers are going to make mistakes. So the problem I see with young goalkeeper coaches now is they harp on them. They harp on them and they harp on them. You know, what I tell goalkeepers is, you know, once the ball goes in the net and you get it out, it's 0-0 again. And so now it's now, all right, you have to have such a short memory as a goalkeeper. And as a goalkeeper coach, you have to have a long memory because you have to remember what happened in those plays so you can fix those problems, but you can't fix them on the spot, especially in games. You know, you can't now, like at halftime, you're losing 2-0 and your goalkeeper's gaffed one and the other one good.
Hello?
Hey, he froze.
Oh, we just froze. All right. Well, we'll move on. We'll move on from there until we get Daryl back right there.
Yeah. Should I tell a quick story once he comes back on? Hopefully.
Yeah.
No, but I think so. One thing that Daryl was saying earlier about just, you know, him thinking that he was like, you know, the best goalkeeper coach and that he kind of reached the pinnacle of what he thought, you know, as a goalkeeping in terms of like the box that he was in as a coach. He wanted to go to the next box, which would be obviously a top assistant coach or head coach where he is now. And I remember like, you know, Mike, I thought I knew it all as a goalkeeper coach. I thought I stepped in and I thought I was like this like diamond in the rough that like everybody would see me as a coach and go, wow, this guy is just like going to change the game. And you know that from our conversations, but I remember I had a conversation with my head coach at Cal State LA and he sat down, he said, Omar, what's your goal? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a goalkeeper coach? Do you want to be a head coach? What is it? And I remember I sat down with him and I was like, honestly, I just want to be a goalkeeper coach right now. Like, I think I'm one of the like best goalkeeper coaches, I would say, I feel like in the world. And he was like,
wait, did you say the world?
I swear, because I will tell you, I was very naive. That's what I thought. I was like so into my own stuff that I believed it.
The world.
And I swear.
World.
The whole world.
And then he was like, excuse me? And I was like, no. I was like, no.
At Division II Cal State LA, you felt you were the best goalkeeper coach in the world.
I said, no. What I have to say is like, I feel like I put in enough work through film and all that stuff that I just feel like I'm up there with like people who think about the game 24/7 and all that stuff. He was like, Omar, you know, do me a favor, just shut the door real quick. So like, shut the door, and he just threw out like, you know, expletives and what's up, Daryl? Can you hear us?
Sorry.
No worries.
No worries, man. We were just finding out that Omar
thought he was the best goalkeeper in the world.
Best goalkeeper coach
in the world.
At Cal State LA. Yeah, just tell him what you said.
So Daryl, I wanted to bounce off what you said earlier about like you had a box that you were in as a goalkeeper coach and you felt like you reached the pinnacle of that box, and then you were like, I want to step into the next part of my career as a coach into a more well-rounded coach, more holistic now of a goalkeeper coach, and then a head coach where you are now. So that's kind of where my mindset was early on. But like, I really thought that I was one of like a godsend of a goalkeeper coach because I felt like I just watched so much film. I had so much knowledge about so many things that like, I'm just going to be this, you know, I'm going to start posting stuff. People are going to love it. And I'm going to be this recognized figure all around the world when, you know, it didn't happen like that. But I go to my head coach at Cal State LA. He asked me, you know, what I want to do as a coach, what I want to be. And I said, look, you know, at the moment, I feel like I'm one of like the top goalkeeper coaches in the world. Long story short.
I'm sorry. This is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Can you post a giant world behind you?
Long story short, he shuts the door and he was like, you know, Omar, I don't want to BS you. And I'm going to tell you this, that is effing ridiculous that what you just said. And I was like, I'm like 25, so I'm just like, yeah, okay. And he's like, no, just the fact that you think that you're one of the top coaches in the world. You're not even one of the top 50 coaches here in California. What makes you think you're top in the world? It's like, you don't know anything about goalkeeper coaching. You don't have any experience. You have nothing. So I need you to just sit there, be a sponge, soak up all the information, and learn. And he's like, if you want to be a goalkeeper coach, great. But I want you to sit here, watch our tactical conversations, listen to our scouting reports, get more into understanding the full game so that you do become one of the best goalkeeper coaches, but you're not stuck in that box. And so again, I know we're kind of like going backwards in terms of the conversation we had, but I just wanted to bring that up because I felt like you said earlier, that if you box yourself into certain categories, you're going to stay in that category. But I would advise any young coach who's coming in, one, you don't know everything. Trust me, you don't. And if you think you do, call my coach at Cal State LA. He'll definitely let you know what you don't know. Second thing is too, it's like, the more you know, the more you can bring to your goalkeepers. And I think I was so closed off into listening to other people and what they had. And Mike knows this again, because Mike and I spent a lot of time together. The conversations where he was like challenging me of that, Omar, you don't know this, you don't know that. I'm like, screw you, dude. I know everything. And then I was like, I'm doing a disservice to myself and to my goalkeepers that I'm like closing off information. So I really want to bring it full circle now to the quarantine time. And I really do think that in this past like month and a half to 2 months, I've learned more about goalkeeping and heard other people's opinions about goalkeeping and just like, creating that bridge from the first team coach to the goalkeeper coach. Like, I've learned so much in this 2 month period that I'm like, I cannot believe I ever thought that I knew everything. So just to fill on that point, Daryl, I just feel like it's super important that even if you are the goalkeeper coach, don't just be a goalkeeper coach. Soak up as much information as you can. And if you don't think you need it, then you don't need it. But if you end up hearing something that you go, oh my God, I can't believe I ever coached without knowing this piece of information, I guarantee there's going to be way more of those moments than there are going to be of ones you go, I don't need this.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, I didn't say I was the best goalkeeper coach in the world. I said I was the best goalkeeper in MLS. And I'm sure if you ask all the other goalkeeper coaches in 2008 who were working in MLS, they would all tell you the same thing, that they were the best goalkeeper coach in MLS. Here's the point, though, Omar, to that is, if you don't think you're a good goalkeeper coach, then you're going to get walked on especially at a higher level, in the college level and the pro level. If you don't think you're good at what you do, then your goalkeepers are going to walk all over you, because they're going to see that little bit in you. And listen, here's a fact, okay? You're always learning. I'm learning today, okay? I'm a head coach now, but you're always learning. And even like last year, I had a goalkeeper coach for our first year with Forward Madison, who was not only our goalkeeper coach, but he was our backup goalkeeper.
Is it Ryan? Ryan Coulter?
Yeah, Ryan Coulter. And he had a great year both on and off the field. And I'll be totally honest, I turned around and watched some of his sessions while they were going on, and I was like, shit, that's good stuff. Like that. I never had done stuff like that. But at the same time, I've also been at a goalkeeping coaching now since 2020. I've been out of it for 3 years. But here's a lesson I learned in 2014. So in 2009, we had a great year again with the Fire. Then we all lost our jobs. And then I got hired to be the head coach in Fort Lauderdale. So I hadn't touched the ball as far as working with goalkeepers, like striking balls or anything, from the end of the season in 2009 until January of 2014, when I got hired to be RSL's goalkeeper coach.
How sore were your hips? Like, they must have just been.
How sore? They fell off. Like literally, after the first day, I went to the trainer, and the trainer looked at me and goes, who are you? Like what are you doing in here? And I was like, listen, you don't understand. I haven't struck this many balls in so long. And so now here's the other part. I was so nervous because I'm working with Nick Raimondo, who is the best goalkeeper in MLS. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, he never played overseas. Yes, he never won. But as far as when you look at a career, all right, and how this guy never won goalkeeper of the year in the league is beyond me. But now here, I'm going to work for this guy. And, man, he put me in my place real quick. Because the first time I hit a ball that wasn't within a 1 millimeter radius of his hands, he let me have it. and he let me have it. There was one point where I was striking balls at him and I was just not having a good day. He told me, like, get out of here. He goes, let Jeff hit the balls at me. And I was like, talk about checking your ego, right? Like here's now, but he was right. I was so unprepared that it took me a good probably 2 to 3 months to get my bearings back about now being that goalkeeper coach and getting back into that mind frame. But it was more from the standpoint of I knew I could do it, but I hadn't done it in so long, and it wasn't just like riding a bike. It was like I needed to reteach myself how to be that. So again, part of the thing in 2008 that I said that was, one, I was fighting for a job. All right. So I wanted him to remember that I was valuable to him as a head coach and to the organization. But two, I did feel at that point that I was as good an MLS goalkeeper coach in the league as there was, but I'd also been doing it for 8 years. And I had worked for Bob Bradley. I'd worked for I'd worked for Dave Sarakin, and I'd worked for Juan Carlos Osorio. And all three of them had told me I was doing a good job. So surely you're going to think if those three guys tell you you're doing a good job, that you're the best. But yeah, I see what you're saying, Omar. Look, you can never stop learning as a coach. You can never stop learning as a player. You can never stop learning as a person. And that's one of the things that I try to tell our players. Our mantra this year, our theme of this year is for our players every day. And obviously we're struck by this pandemic right now, but during preseason, we talk to our players each and every day. What can I do as an individual to make myself better on this day? Because if I make myself better on this day, that'll make the team better.
That's a really good point, Daryl, that you just brought up in regards to that, because we've been discussing it entire times during this quarantine and lockdown. By the way, one of the reasons that I feel like, what I've enjoyed about the quarantine and lockdown is with the virtual sessions that I've been doing lately, I haven't had to strike a ball, so no one can complain about my service. They can just complain to their parents about the service. Is the fact that we've all been able to learn things that we might have thought that we knew a lot about, and be able to take a step back without having to worry about that stress of getting on the field and running a session and being like, oh, you know what? Let me look at something in a different light. Like Omar or Saskia or yourself brings up something to me, and I go, I never thought about it like that before. And I don't have that stress of having to go out and run a session right now and overthink things or anything like that. So, Saskia, I know you've been doing a lot of like the Zoom sessions, with your goalkeepers in regards to discussing it. Do you feel that that's been really beneficial for you as a coach in regards to your dynamic with the team coach? Because now you guys can have this dialogue you can't have during the spring season when you're worried about the games and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of left to myself with my Zoom sessions and everything like that. I mean, I'll kind of touch base with because they're doing all their team Zoom sessions and stuff like that. So, which is kind of nice. I don't need somebody micromanaging me because I am the best goalkeeper coach in the world.
I mean, look, you won a World Cup. Like the thing is, like Saskia,
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
He was. I mean, and that's. See that, speaking about the respect factor, like Saskia can just walk on a field and they go like, I don't know what kind of service that was. I was, have you won a World Cup? Oh, maybe I should do it like that.
I'm like, go get it.
No, go on.
Go shag it and run while you're at it. No, my point being is yes. And for me, it's been good as well because it's not just on the field training. It's been nice to be able to sit with the goalkeepers as a group, especially with the club, and have them analyze saves and stuff like that, stuff that we don't really do and have the time to do with club. As far as with college goes, it's been awesome as well because we're in team meetings and we do different projects as a team. It's not just me and my goalkeepers. I have a meeting with my goalkeepers every once a week, but we have 3 meetings a week with the team. And, I have my own group and with defenders, with forwards, with everything. And working on like different lineups and why we would do this lineup against this. And that's all teaching me as well. I mean, I will absolutely humble myself to say, although the best goalkeeper and goalkeeper coach in the world, in history, not the best field player coach. No, and I've had to learn too. And Mike, I was the same way. I could set up a goalkeeper session and a defense defensive session with my eyes closed, but to get a whole team and have to set everything up that way, no, I had to learn that myself. And I've won a World Cup. Yes, I played all over the world. All of that stuff, I still have to learn that. And I still have to understand how to set up a full team session and make it like really something that's worthwhile doing, not just running drills that are shooting drills or something like that, like really understanding and explaining that. So I'm learning every day myself. And I was out of soccer for 15 years and slowly started touching a ball again and doing privates and doing club. And then all of a sudden,
Your hips were fine, not unlike Daryl's, right? They were fine. They were good to go for the strike.
I was okay. I was okay. And I can also, with the college, I make them shoot on themselves. So, but I had the same thing. I got there and I've had bad days and just couldn't get my volleys right and shaking it. And then, but I'll turn around and just grab one of the other players and I'll just be like, I can't waste my keeper's time with me trying to get my timing on right now because I'm just having a bad day. So, Hannah, you serve volleys to Lauren or something like that. Just
yeah, Omar. One thing I really want to test Omar, Daryl, and I want you to hear this about Omar is that he'll come up to me and I don't want to embarrass you or anything like that, but he'll just be like, my left foot needs work. He's like, left foot needs work. He's like, the service isn't where it should be.
I know.
But that's somebody that respects his craft, because not only are you expecting it of yourself, you're expecting it for your kids, and you're trying to give them the best that you can give them. And if you feel your service isn't going to benefit them, then you're not giving the most out of your session. So
yeah, like I get frustrated, especially with college. If I only have them for a half an hour or 20, and I'm just so off, it's a detriment to what I'm trying to put them through. I got to figure it out. I got to tweak it. I got to do something. I can't waste 20 minutes trying to get my timing on and get a good volley in.
Yeah, but I think again, the biggest thing for me was that I got humbled really, really young as a coach, where somebody told me that, hey, my stuff does stink, and you need to understand that you're not, God's gift to the earth. You need to understand that now, so that you get your priorities in check. Yeah. So you understand that you need to soak up the information that we're giving you about. We're training game model. What does that mean in terms of relation for goalkeeper training? Oh, wow. Okay. Game model is like specific to how we play. So maybe goalkeeper training should be specific to what the goalkeepers see in the game. So like, what I mean? So like there's little things like that where like they trigger your mind, but if your mind's not open to that, you can't have triggers go off. And I think that's the biggest thing for me too, is just kind of understanding that when you set out to have a goal or when you need to get to the next level, you have to be very realistic with yourself and kind of blunt and honest. Like the world's going to teach you if you're not, humble, it'll humble you quick. So it's better to humble yourself and understand the process to it. And I think that is, Mike, like you said, like I realized from a young age that I always watch Andrew Spark videos. And one of the videos was that he started striking the ball with his right foot and left foot. And he kept saying like, I need to be good for both feet so I can give my goalkeepers in-swingers and out-swingers in warm-up. Why would I not, if I want to be a professional coach, why would I not do that? And I triggered in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. I'd rather get to a point and have all these tools versus get to a point and go, oh crap, maybe if I have Nick Raimondo, I'm going to need to work on my left foot. And I don't have any time at that time because I'm going to be training, and in the off season, I have my own privates maybe and all that stuff. So it's just about understanding reverse engineering, knowing what like seeing someone successful like Daryl at the next level and going, oh, what does he have and what made him successful? He's a sponge. He got way more into the tactical stuff. Oh my God. Okay, maybe I should do that. You know what I mean? So it's just like seeing, and I think that's what the mentorship comes into place as well, Mike, and I give you a lot of credit for that with me, is like you need those people who are going to tell you that you need to open your eyes and ears and soak everything in while it's there. Because if you make enemies out of people and say, hey, I don't need this, I don't need that, but 2-3 years and then you're going to pick up your head and no one's going to be there for you. So it's important to set those foundations early. And once you set those out, then you're going to have people all around you who are going to want to see you succeed. Yeah.
We've been going for over an hour right now, so we're going to try to wrap it up really soon right here. But first off, thanks guys for taking all this time, obviously, in the middle of the day. I know you've got the pouring rain, Daryl, going on out there. So
my dog keeps looking at me like, what's going on? But he's good. He's resting. So he's
good. I want to ask you here because, you've done the higher echelons as both a goalkeeper coach and a team coach. And I want to ask you, is it actually having that empathy for the goalkeeper coach? Do you think that if you're a team coach, even if you have never aspired to be a goalkeeper coach or you never aspired to be a goalkeeper, do you feel that team coaches should at least spend some time either playing in goal or learning the position in goal to have a little bit more empathy towards their goalkeeper coach and know how to communicate with them?
Yeah, that'll never happen. listen, I mean, part of me being a head coach now has actually, to a point, been a detriment to me now getting a goalkeeper coaching job back in MLS, because there were a couple jobs open before I got the Forward Madison job, and I was like, hey, I'm interested in the job. And they're like, yeah, but you're not just a goalkeeper coach. And I'd be like, what do you mean? I'm not just a goalkeeper coach. They're like, well, you want to be a head coach. I was like, well, listen, I mean, a lot of coaches want to be a head coach. I go, but I am a goalkeeper coach. And that's what my expertise is at. So if you tell me that I just am going to be the goalkeeper coach, I will just be the goalkeeper coach, and I will be hopefully the best goalkeeper coach that I can be. Who wouldn't, but who, again, I would then say, but who wouldn't want a goalkeeper coach who can also cut down video for you, design set plays for you, be able to break down your opponent and all that stuff. So different coaches are different. You know, there's some coaches that want a goalkeeper coach who can do it all. There's some coaches who want a goalkeeper coach that just is going to coach the goalkeeper. And I get that. And look, this is the route I've chosen. Try asking a coach to get in goal. It's like, I mean, I couldn't imagine, Dave Sarakin saying to me, why do you do that? I don't know, Dave. Why don't you go get in the goal?
That would be. I would love to see Dave Sarakin in goal. Oh, please tell me. Please tell me we have video of that somewhere.
No, we don't have video of that. So look, some coaches are smart, and they don't want to get in goal. I mean, look, the one thing you could say about goalkeeping, and again, I'll go back to your podcast with Mulch and Blodge and you guys. You got to be crazy. You got to have courage. Everybody always says goalkeepers are nuts. They're not nuts, okay? What they are is they're different species. And they are people that they don't care what other people think. And that's how you have to be as a goalkeeper. You can't have soft shoulders, okay? You can't be a goalkeeper and make a mistake and expect everybody to forgive you, okay? But when you make that one big save and you win the game for them, you also can't expect everybody to come pat you on the back and say, you're the reason we won the game, you know? Because if you look at Timmy against Belgium, who stood on his head and made the 18 saves, we still lost the game 1-0. So at the end of the day, he was the hero, but he wasn't the hero because they didn't win the game. So asking coaches to jump in the goal, it's just, they're not going to do it because they do have egos. Head coaches have egos, and they're like, no, that's what I hired you for. You know,
yeah.
That's why we have you as the goalkeeper coach. Look, there were times in Chicago, there were times in Salt Lake, I had a jumping goal. I mean, okay, look, I was a son.
Oh my God, hold on. You're reminding me of the fact that Saskia refuses to jump in goal now at UCLA. Well, she says they shoot.
I did it right before the pandemic. We had and we were still in season, but one of our goalkeepers was hurt. We have one.
Recently you just got it.
And Michael, you can't tell that story. You can't tell that. Come on.
Oh, whoops.
I'll jump in goal for UCLA.
Okay. Whoops.
As long as you're not videoing it, right, Saskia? You'll jump in.
It's just but I'll tell you what, if one more coach sets up a shooting drill that's like 3-tiered shooting where my keeper's getting blown into the back of the net because where they're shoving the ball from is ridiculous, I'm gonna grab you by the back of the neck and stand you in goal and say, do you think that's a good service? And don't yell at my keeper for not making that save when you just laid it up there for them to be destroyed with.
Right. And what I'll do is I'll tell my goalkeepers, I'll say, get out of there, let me stand in there. And I'll go stand in the goal, and I'll stand right in the middle of the goal, and the guy will be shooting. I go, yeah, you're going over to that side. Yeah, you're going to shoot it over there. I won't move. I'm not moving. I'm like, you guys just go for it. But the common sense is, what are you doing a shooting drill from 6 yards out?
We
were doing some of those in Salt Lake, and the coaches would set up finishing. I'd be like, guys, just make sure the finishing is 12 yards and out.
Yeah.
And they'd look at me and they go, okay, well, it's not 12 yards or out in the game. I'm like, fair point. I go, but if you're going to do these drills, Nick Raimondo will not be in them.
Yeah, and you're not, number one, you're not going at game speed. There's no pressure on the service. And, and by the way, when they set up those kind of drills, I get so irritated. I tell my keepers just to go get the ball. I'm like, You know what? See that service right there? Go pick it up. Go pick it up. Go pick it up until they figure, okay, we have to go to a different angle and drop the ball more towards the top of the 18 because they're just coming off the line and picking up these crappy services. And I'm like, yeah, They'll learn. Go get it. Don't stand here and wait for that little lame duck to come across and somebody come running in and blow you into the back of the net. It's not going to happen.
Omar, have you seen? I'm sure I know Daryl's seen it. I don't know if Saskia's seen it. There was this drill that Bob Bradley used to do with the national team, this finishing drill. And I remember I saw this video of like Tim Howard like having to do it, and like they literally lay off the ball at like the 3 or the 4, and the keeper just has to get into the space, and they just hammer the ball. And I'm just thinking, oh, what a horrible experience! What a horrible
I can tell you a quick story about the 2017 MLS All-Star game, the one that was in Chicago. So I was there helping Brian McBride as the goalkeeper coach for the Futures game. And so we had just got done with practice, and the All-Stars were walking out to the field, and it was the old fire staff, but the goalkeeper coach was setting up training. And I'm sitting there talking to DeMarcus Beasley and Timmy Howard and Brian. The four of us are standing there talking, and Timmy puts his hand on my shoulder, and he points down to where the goalkeeper coach was, and he goes, "Daryl, will you please go down there and tell that guy that I am not doing any of what he is setting up there? This is the All-Star game, and I am not here to work." And I was like, "Good luck, my man. Good luck."
Oh my gosh.
That was Omar. That was a young goalkeeper coach aspiring to be the best in the world. I've got Timmy Howard down here. I'm going to put the best session together the day before the All-Star.
I'm going to show him.
Oh, nothing has gone worse for me than when I've tried to run the best session ever. I've tried to do that in the past before and try to impress high-level goalkeepers, and it always because I always try to do way too much. Speaking of way too much, we've done way too much of this podcast right here. Honestly, I mean, there's just so much. The thing is when we have goalkeepers on, you know how it is. Like we just keep going. We'd be doing this even if there wasn't a camera. So if
there's a camera?
Yeah, well. At least in my mind, there's a camera. What if this is all just a figment of my imagination and none of this is actually,
wake up.
Yeah. If this is what my dreams are, that's sad. Well, Daryl, honestly, thanks for taking the time, man. If there's any goalkeeper coaches out there who are looking for advice on making that transition to becoming a head coach, or what aspects they should be learning more about in order to try to make that effort over, where's the best place for people to reach out to you? I know social media is not your number one passion. But I take it Forward Madison is probably the best place for people to reach out to you.
So this is where I pull my mulch, right, and tell everyone just to email me. So
Okay.
I gotta take my digs at mulch, right? I mean, I'm an East Coast guy too, so I could do that. So my wife just set me up on Instagram. I have no idea how it works, but it's ShoreSave, ShoreSave is my Instagram, whatever that means. I'm on Facebook. My name, you could always look me up, but if I don't know you, I usually don't friend you. But yeah, Daryl, DARYL @forwardmadisonfc.com. Feel free to email me. I'm always willing to talk soccer and goalkeeping. And again, we've gone on for an hour plus. I could sit here with you guys all day. I love doing this stuff. The one good thing goalkeepers can do is they can talk.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing we all have in common, is that we can have good conversations. But in all seriousness, I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a joy. Anytime. I mean, if you ever want to talk again, and head coaching topics, goalkeeping topics, life in general, listen, I'm always willing to.
Daryl Shore, the life coach, right there. There we go. If you need a life coach, just reach out to Daryl Shore. I don't
know if I can help you, but I'll try.
Cool. And if you want to reach out to Saskia Weber, it's @Saskia_Weber on all social media.
Just change it to the greatest goalkeeper coach of all time.
Oh, please tell me you did. Greatest goalkeeper coach of all time.
But it was taken by Omar, so I couldn't.
If you want to reach out to Omar, it's @Instagram celebrity. No, it's @ProGK Academy @. Remember, guys, if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18 media.com. It's @Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, greatest goalkeeper coaches in the world.
Woo!
Woo! Oh man. Stop live stream. Daryl, thanks for doing that, man.
That was fun.
Yeah, that
I
was.
appreciate it. Thanks. It's good meeting you guys, and I
Absolutely.
enjoyed
I
it.
mean, I can't wait till honestly, like, cause I need to check out. I want to go up to check out the whole Forward Madison experience. Like,
This thing is, we were talking earlier, it is blown out of the water. I mean, it's 4,800 the place seats 4,800. It's packed. I mean, they have such a good time, and it's such an amazing atmosphere. You know, I kind of like I say to my owners, I was like, yeah, you guys do all this stuff off the field. For me, it's still about the product on the field, you know, and making sure that we have a good team and a good group. But
do you guys ever come out this way, out to the West Coast?
well, we don't with USL League One. We don't.
Oh, that's right, because it's regional, right? Yeah.
I was with Salt Lake, and like I told you, my daughter lives out there. She lives just east.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, there's been rumors about USL League One teams coming into the league from out there. There was supposed to be a group in Orange County this year, and I guess it was the Roma group was going to put a team in. So I think pretty soon. It wouldn't surprise me if LAFC or even the Galaxy drop down to USL League One next year.
Well, Galaxy have like 4 fans at the games, so.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with it. So we have 4
Guys, I'm gonna run.
See you later, Zusk. I'll call you after.
All right.
All right, bye.
We have sold out venues, and then you go play a game at Toronto, and you're playing in front of 40 people on their turf training field. You know, so then you go play Orlando, and it's going to change this year because they moved venues. But they were playing at the Montverde Academy. You had 100 people there. You know, so it was just awful. I mean, we're supposed to play New England this year in Foxborough. They're going to have 8 people there. I mean, it's going to be like you're going to play in this big stadium, and it's just going to be awful.
It's like, well, that's like a JV game before the varsity game starts.
Exactly.
And no one's there. No one's there. They used to do those double headers. They used to do those double headers at Carson for Galaxy.
Yeah.
Omar remembers those, right? The G2. Yeah, but they play after the Galaxy match. After the first team match, they would play.
That's what we did that last year. Our first game with North Texas, we played after the FC Dallas game. There was that's calling the kettle black there, because there was like 2,000 people for the FC Dallas game, and then there was 200 people for our game.
You know, but the craziest thing is those 2,000 people that were at the FC Dallas game were all part of the North Texas squad, because the FC Dallas Youth Academy, literally, I think like 11-year-olds play for North Texas. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's nuts. They were good. They were good.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, honestly, if there's anything, you know, I'll shoot this out to your social media guys as well too. And, you know, but, if there's anything that we can do for Forward Madison, you know, I what you guys are doing is really incredible. So, if you guys ever have clips or something like that, you want us to, Omar's channel's literally ginormous. I mean, 155,000 followers.
Awesome.
So if you ever have any goalkeeper clips you want to send out his way and get a little love, you know.
Awesome. Yeah, no, we'll do. And likewise, if you guys need anything from me, it's great meeting you guys, and whatever you need from my end, you know, don't hesitate to reach out.
Cool.
Sure.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
All right, guys.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Later.
See you guys. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.